Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Jorgen Morgen.
This week, we will be discussing the horror classic. I don't even know what we're doing. 28 Days Later.
28 Days Later. Oh my God.
I had a massive brain fart for a second there. Not to be confused with just 28 Days, which is Sandra Bullock going to rehab.
I want to see that mashup, though.
They should be the same movie. It's basically the same thing.
They're
Good
both
times.
a nightmare.
They're both a nightmare for which I cannot awake. It's a sad situation. Go ahead and give us your 30-second synopsis of 28 Days Later.
The world is shit. Liberals are bad. They didn't listen, and all the liberals caused the end of the world.
Yep.
By freeing diseased monkeys, and then it simply becomes The Walking Dead. The end.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
It was interesting that it was all British. I'm tired of seeing just New York or LA fall into shit.
Right.
It's good that the rest of the world has gone to shit too.
They do it too.
I can't even imagine you just shut down London to film this.
Right, we're going to talk about
Atlanta
this.
is one thing, but you know,
right.
Basically, this is The Walking Dead, and it's very disturbing.
Well, I found it very interesting that it really wasn't that. There weren't a lot of scenes of people getting torn apart by zombies.
No.
You know what I mean?
I'm not even sure. You don't really know what the zombies are doing. They're just beating you to death, ripping you to shreds. They're not eating you.
Well, they kind of throw up on you from time to time.
They throw up even a drop of their goo. It's like the Rona. Even a drop of goo is enough to flip you.
That's all it takes, just a drop of goo.
Gabagoo.
That's right. Sweet Lord.
It's just disturbing. And of course, the difference between this and The Walking Dead is these zombies are alive.
Right.
In 30 seconds, it goes from your loved one to someone who just wants to rip you to pieces.
Right, because technically they're not zombies.
No, they just have a disease.
They have the rage virus. Exactly. So it's a whole different thing.
I think I had a bit of the rage virus earlier, but my immune system, because, I got the Moderna, managed to stave it off, and I stabilized.
There you go. Good times had by all. Now, where had you heard of 28 Days Later originally? Had you seen it in the theater? Do you remember?
I don't think I saw it in the theater. Maybe I rented it.
Okay.
But I remember being disturbed by it, for sure. I've seen it years ago. In fact, right. I forgot about it until Doctor Who appeared. Then I was like, oh, yeah.
That's right. That's right. This is before. I think this is before he was Doctor Who, before Doctor Who was back.
And he is hot as F. And I loved him as Doctor Who, and they let him go because he was just too attractive.
He didn't want to do it.
He was too masculine.
He didn't want to do it. He only did it for one season. He thought one season was enough, and it was kind of a bummer to see him go. But I was happy David Tennant was there to step right in. David Tennant, who might be my favorite Doctor Who of all time.
He's kind of like a Pierce Brosnan. He's
no.
That kind of effeminate British kind of bullshit.
And
versus
he's
a Daniel
Scottish.
Craig, whatever.
Whatever.
Sweet Lord. It's that, really, I'm going to kick your ass. You ain't kicking my ass.
There is no ass kicking Doctor Who. Who would that be? Tom Baker?
Is he the one with the scarf? Is he going to strangle me with a scarf and his fro?
And his jelly bellies. Good Lord. We're going deep. We're going deep now.
Doctor Who deep.
I remember when this movie came out because it was a critic's darling. Because it's like very much like he revolutionizes.
It's solid.
It's a whole new look at the zombie horror genre. Because it's Danny Boyle who directed this. So, I mean, this is like a real movie with
Danny
a real director.
Boyle?
You know Danny Boyle, don't you?
Was he the one who did Moulin Rouge?
No, he did not. He did Slumdog Millionaire. He did many things. We'll talk about him when we get to behind the scenes.
All right.
But he's like a real director. He's not some dude who moonlights by shooting porn on the weekends. And he's like, well, I guess I'll direct a horror movie.
Is that what Baz Luhrmann did?
Who did direct Moulin Rouge.
I thought that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Pardon the creaking door. I live in a haunted house.
Clearly. Sweet Lord.
Maybe I need to get the WD-40 out.
Please, the world asks you to do this, please.
I will tell you, I did take 2 solid pages of notes, and very little of it is riffing.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh my goodness! Well,
I know.
This movie it's a good movie.
It's a good movie. It's hard to make fun of. I mean, you can find inaccuracies. That's mostly what I wrote down, but most of it is just troubling.
Right. Okay, well, let's just jump right in, shall we?
Well, I thought we already had.
No, this was still the when did you see the movie and hear about it the first time portion of our program. How dare you?
I'm not sure if I rented it or if it was on HBO or whatever. But I don't think it would have been at the theater. I
definitely saw it in the theater. You better believe it. I might not have been there opening night, but soon enough.
Okay.
Soon enough. But yeah, watching this, you do see there's those initial similarities with The Walking Dead. I mean, literally the scene in the hospital.
Oh yeah, boom! That is the beginning of The Walking Dead. The dude wakes up from a coma.
Yes.
And the hospital is deserted. He's wandering the halls, wandering the streets, trying to figure out what's going on. Even he goes and finds goes to his home to see what's going on. I mean, this is The Walking Dead.
Now, this came out before.
African-American love interest. This is The Walking Dead.
Well, that was later.
And she's a badass. Yes. This is The Walking Dead.
This came out much earlier. Now, Robert Kirkman, who wrote the comics and is now one of the primary creative voices of the TV show, said that he came up with the idea of waking up in the hospital kind of spontaneously and separately from 28 Days Later. So I guess we got to take his word for it.
Well, this movie was what? 2003?
2002.
2002. Come on, bro.
I'm just
saying. We all watch things, they get into our subconscious, and now we think we've invented it.
No, quite. Well, here's my thing. I've had situations where I'm like, oh, I should do this creative thing with my story or this thing with my script. And then before I complete it, I see it in something else. And do you know what I do? I change it. I don't just go whatever. I had this idea. They'll just have to take my word for it. No.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
It's solid, and I enjoyed The Walking Dead before it became too gratuitous.
Yeah.
But what can you say? But let's not play games, children. Let's not play games. This movie is solid, and you clearly ripped it off.
I mean, clearly.
And why there was no lawsuit, I don't know.
Who's to say? I mean, I guess if you're 28 Days Later, you're Danny Boyle, you're like, whatever, I'm doing fine.
No.
No?
Do you think James Cameron, if I made a movie next week that made any money about a futuristic world with a robot sent back to save some damn kid?
That's not the same thing.
Do you not think that I'd be getting a knock on the door, a cease and desist, to screw you, give me all the money?
Okay. Let's call it what it is. This is one little segment of it. This isn't like he stole the entire plot.
I mean, it's The Walking Dead. They go to Sanctuary, but Sanctuary's not what it is it?
Well, that's a common trope.
Bad.
That's a common trope that appears in these sort of zombie apocalypse kind of deals. There's always kind of a utopia.
Here is the beginning, and then it becomes a common trope as after this movie, everyone rips them off.
It could be.
I mean, you can't say it's a common trope unless somebody did it first.
Well, and this was the movie that kind of put the actor Cillian Murphy on the map. This is the first thing I'd ever seen him in.
How do I know him? Because he looked familiar.
You see, what's interesting is he does a lot of things where he doesn't have a British accent. So he was in the Dark Knight movies. He was in. He was the Scarecrow in Batman Begins.
Okay.
So he's in a lot of things. He has a good American accent. A lot of British actors, when they try to do one, they sound nuts. And he's got a good one. Now, Naomi Harris, I'm kind of jumping all in, who plays, let me pull her name up, the love interest. And of course, now I'm forgetting. I always forget people's names because it's like,
I do too.
Cillian Murphy played Jim. Naomi Harris played Selena. She is in those James Bond movies now. Opposite Daniel Craig. She plays Miss Moneypenny. So there you go.
And Daniel Craig and Chris, was it Echelon or whatever his last name
Not Chris Echelon. Christopher Eccleston.
Eccleston.
Yep.
He and Daniel Craig are buddies.
Are they?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's a whole circle of life.
It's a circle of life. Okay. See, it all ties in together. There's no escaping it. You know what I'm saying? Let's jump right in and get started.
All right, let's rock and roll, Brother Bear.
Now, the movie starts off with, like we said, kind of PETA-type activists breaking into like a medical research place.
As one does. And it's always the frickin' monkeys, isn't it? These movies, it's always the monkeys.
So they go to free one of the monkeys. And they could be an ape. I don't know. I'm not a primatologist. While the scientist goes, no, they're infected. If a scientist says, don't open that, they're infected, I think I believe him. I think I trust him.
At a research center.
Exactly.
At a research center.
No question. I mean, it doesn't have to be they're infected with the rage virus. They could be infected with anything that I wouldn't want to get.
Exactly.
And they totally, like, literally, of course, there's always some big, like, thug dude who's like, really? You're with PETA? This guy is obviously like, his day job is with the mob or something, beats up that guy. And of course they open up the cage and then of course it all goes to shit.
And what was their plan? They were just going to be living large in London and freezing to death in the winter?
Well, people don't realize.
Cages or sacks or something. What were they doing with these creatures?
It's like 12 monkeys. You just let them free. Let them free. You know, they can live in the temperate zone. Can't they? I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know.
They're living inside climate control probably their entire life. No.
Not anymore.
It's cold and wet. And what are they going to do? Fight with hobos for an old sandwich? What are they going to eat once they're free on the streets of London? I think
you give them a chance to fight the old hobos for our entertainment. Is that too much to ask? And I mean, the scientist literally calls for security, who seemingly never arrives. I mean, are they on a coffee break? What's going on here?
Basically, the chimp eats her face, as chimps do.
As chimps do, who don't have the rage virus.
Are we sure it had the rage virus, or does it do as chimps do?
You do not? Okay, we got to go on and jag about this. Ladies and gentlemen, chimps are not pets. Do not put clothes on them and have them dance around your house because inevitably they will rip your face off. Don't do it.
100%. And not with the rage virus. So the chimp acted like a chimp.
Is
this all just a fever dream of the lady who got her face? This is it. It never happened. Nothing ever happened. These are her dreams while she's in a coma after getting her face eaten off.
That's correct. It was all the dreams of an autistic child staring into a snow globe. That's all it is. Good time. No, if a chimp throws feces at you, consider yourself lucky, is all I'm saying.
You still have your face.
Yes.
So maybe you got a little of the Ebola, but, they might be able to cure you for that. But if it's the rage virus...
No can do.
Deep doo-doo.
So smash cut this scene to the hospital room where you see Cillian Murphy bone naked.
As one does.
Full frontal nudity. Sprawled out on his bed. And I kept thinking to myself, this isn't the way it really works in a hospital, is it? I mean, if you're in a coma, they do leave you in some kind of hospital gown. It's not just naked town. Right?
Well, I mean... Things need to breathe.
Clearly.
Things need to breathe. Your bits and pieces, you don't want them getting stagnant.
I mean, is this a Me Too movement? That's what I'm wondering. It's like, what were those nurses doing to him before?
Me too. I want to be naked.
Oh, sweet. So again, there are multiple full frontal Cillian Murphy moments in this that seemingly are not necessary. I'm just going to throw it out there. Necessary.
Well, our last movie, we have to watch hours of trash with her prosthetic Barbie crotch. So yes. I think this is all fair play.
Normally I support nudity in all its stances, but I mean, in this case, I can tell you what religion he is. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Womp, 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 womp.
Thank you. I'm here all week. Sweet Jesus. Okay, so then he's kind of wandering around. Wouldn't his arms and legs be atrophied? I mean, I don't know how it works. I mean,
that was the problem with The Walking Dead. If you literally have not moved for 30 days or eaten
that was
or
another
had
question.
any liquid,
yes.
Yeah, you're going to be in a world of hurt. Not climbing elevator shafts with sexy kittens, forget it.
Well, and this is a good question. So we know he was in a coma for 30 days.
At least.
Or excuse me, 28 days. 28 days left. Of course. The title's 28 days later. Come on. So 28 days, right?
But it's 28 days after the girl got her face eaten, not 28 days after he had his car crash. We don't know when maybe he'd been in coma for 6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Okay.
2 years. Maybe he should just be chicken wings and chicken legs.
Okay. Chicken wings, chicken legs. And again, the question, like you said, has he eaten?
No.
I mean, when was the last time somebody gave him any sustenance at all? Or
right.
And more importantly, water. You can't.
Right.
You gotta have water within a couple days, or you're dead meat, Pilgrim.
I mean, I haven't been in a coma, but I have seen people play doctors on TV, and it seems like they change those bags and the feeding tubes like daily. Right. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they have like a giant Ziploc trash bag that they run a line into his arm, and now he's got water for a week or something. Well, but no.
And I wrote this down. Would there be a full bedpan? Is my next question.
No, he would be catheterized and just laying in a pile of his own feces.
So he's not, at this point, you might be begging to go back into your coma.
That's right. It should be like a baby who has an overloaded diaper where it's all the way up to his wings. You know what? That's what we should have seen as he's walking through.
Huge overflowing catheter bag.
Oh,
This is stuff people don't ask. We ask the serious questions.
Oh my God. How disturbing would you be? Like, so now he's naked. I'm just imagining you, because for me, this is fine. We should have more naked men. But now, what if they showed him like removing his catheter? Would that have been better or worse for you?
It would probably be about the same, in all honesty. Good Lord. Oh, sweet Jesus. So he's just wandering the streets, right? And at this point, again, for no reason, there's no explanation behind this. The rage people sleep all day, right? Is there any explanation for that?
I guess I missed that.
Because he's free to wander the streets all day. It isn't an issue until he goes into the church and wakes up a couple of them.
Maybe my idea was, they're only raging against people who are not raged.
That's something else I wrote about. So they don't attack each other.
Yes, they don't attack each other. They only attack whatever doesn't have the rage virus. So, like later on, when there's the military dude who's chained up, and like when they leave, he kind of just settles down and goes and sits back down.
Right. So, I mean, maybe that's the question. If there's no people around, then they just chill.
They just chill till they finally starve to death or die or something. So really, in this situation, the best bet would be, apparently 28 days is not enough, is to just hunker down.
Right, because it's like, that's the thing. You never see them drinking water or eating food, and they don't seem to eat people. So they should all be dead by the time he wakes up.
Right. I mean, if they're not drinking water...
You can't last a week if you don't drink water.
Exactly. So what's happening here? So in all these shows, they always have to decide that they have to move. I'm like, if you got food right here, you just stay put, friend. You just stay put.
Well, and that's why these kind of stories work better with zombies. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like,
because they're already dead.
They're already dead. If they're eaten, they're not killing and eating for sustenance. They're just doing their thing, right? Just kind of a reflexive thing, whatever the theory is.
You literally just have to wait for those guys to then rot.
Right.
I mean, just completely fall apart. But that takes a long time.
That takes a long time. I get that. But they literally talk about this. We're going to, at one point, Christopher Eccleston says, Major West or whatever his name is, we're going to see how long it takes for these guys to starve to death. I got my buddy chained up. I mean, don't we already know this? I mean, we know how long it takes people to starve to death.
You would think, yeah. I mean, that's what you would think. But
it's all
very we're getting technical and all.
We're getting but it is convenient that they just chill during the day. So much so he's just wandering the street, easy peasy. But that's how you can film in London in these moments. It's like you can literally set up a camera, block off one area, and say, we're going to set up cameras all over, and we're just going to knock this out as quick as we can, and then that's it. You know what I mean? Of lonely dude wandering the highway kind of thing, rather than here's 1,000 zombies I have to coordinate.
Either way, little known fact, London is a major city.
Oh, yeah,
so there are people and cars.
Normally, yes, that is correct. Let me see. Did you notice that there were no bodies anywhere when he's wandering the street at the beginning of the movie?
There were no bodies.
None.
There were not enough cars on the road.
Right.
I mean, it said there was an evacuation, which also didn't really make sense because when you have a disease spreading, you want people to, like we did with the Rona, hunker down.
But not everybody hunkers down.
It's true, but they ordered an evacuation, which is what the newspaper said that he found.
Now, was there a sheriff who said, I ain't doing that. I ain't enforcing this evacuation order?
If people want the rage virus, it's their God-given right to have the rage virus.
Right.
Don't tread on me.
I love our crazy sheriff voice, by the way. Like it's Slim Pickens or somebody.
Oh, it's Boss Hogg.
It's Boss Hogg and Roscoe Pink Coltrane. Okay. We talked about why, if they're just so overcome with rage, they don't attack each other. They only now is that maybe that's something to do with the virus. The virus is just seeking out new hosts.
Maybe.
Perhaps.
I mean, that's why they are a zombie, because the virus has taken their will and everything else is now controlling them.
Right. And no one ever gets cured of the virus. No one, I mean, are we trying to cure the virus? Who's to say?
Interesting. You mean like a little penicillin? Will that knock that shit out?
Just a quick shot of the Pinot, and you're good to go.
Because it's a virus, antibiotics don't work on a virus.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
You need some of that Donald Trump medication, whatever brought him back from the dead when he
chloroquine or whatever.
Exactly.
Just give him a shot, a little bleach right in the vein.
Give him a gin and tonic. It was the quinine. Wasn't that like some bullshit for a while?
Yeah, it was tonic water is all you need. Okay, so he is about to be attacked by zombies, but he is saved by Selena and Mark. And we're like, oh, cool. He's found this new group that's going to take care of him. Sorry. Mark gets a little blood on him because homie is like loud as hell at his parents' house. Blasted music, flashing lights, doing all sorts of crazy. It's like, bro, there are zombies outside. Keep it on the DL. No? Zombie neighbors smash in, and Mark gets a scratch. So Selena murders him brutally.
Oh, yeah. That's enough. And you know what? Your human neighbors don't like when you're blasting music in the middle of the night. So the rage virus neighbors are especially angry.
Right.
Filled with rage.
Normally, your neighbors will just complain about you behind your back. In the rage virus world, they're jumping through your skylight. There you go. And maybe your normal neighbors wish they could be jumping through your skylight. Who's to say? And at no point, I mean, you think Selena would turn to him and be like, Nice work, jackass. I had to kill my buddy over here because of your antics. She does not. She does not. She lets him off easy. Good time.
Because he's so sexy.
Because he is now the last dude on Earth, as far as she knows.
So you got to deal with what you got to do, you know.
And it's about this time they do meet Brendan Gleeson, who lives up in a high rise with his daughter, the only person left. So that's helpful. That was nice of them to let him. He's like wearing full body armor at one point, like fighting off the zombies.
He's wearing like Riot Squad gear, with including the shield and everything.
And yet, when they go on the road, he's like, "I'm just leaving that stuff at home. I don't need that anymore. We're good."
No need. and they decide to take one of those taxis, those British taxis.
Yeah, that's right. And he's like, "Well, we could go the long way, or we could take the shortcut through the dark and spooky tunnel. Hope that's cool."
Yeah.
Bad move.
First of all, I mean, in all these movies, there's always the weird broadcast message. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, that their sanctuary. I mean, wasn't like in The Matrix, of course, in The Walking Dead, since it was a straight ripoff of this. And, you know, there's always that. It never really turns out.
It never works out. So, yeah, they hear this message, like the military, who've seemingly abandoned the entire island, are like, "Hey, come up here. We're safe. We're, you know, good times." Blah,
bring
blah,
the women. Bring the women.
They did not say that in the message. That would have been a signal if they had, for goodness sake. So they decided to go because what else are they going to do? What else are they going to do? So you're right.
Down. They could have done that.
I guess you're right. They could have just stayed where they were. But they said that the water was low. Like they had a bunch of buckets on the roof and it hadn't rained in London in a long time. So
in 10 days. It hadn't rained in 10 days. So I'm guessing rain was right around the corner, because unless there's some freak drought that's also going on simultaneously, come on, people.
Sometimes a freak drought happens. That's all I'm going to say. So they decide to go through the spooky tunnel. And of course, it's like backed up with cars. And somehow his taxi becomes like Bigfoot, where he just climbs over.
Like a monster truck.
Yes. Climbs right over, 4-wheel drive. I'm like, how's this work?
Oh my God. It doesn't work.
Drives over the wreckage, crash, but of course then the tire pops. And that's all it takes to have
who'd have thunk it?
Right.
Really?
Shocking.
I can't take my taxi cab. Maybe I'll try that with my Prius next time, you know, like the 405 is jammed. I'll just gun it and ride across the roofs of all the cars in front of me.
Right. If I was in my Prius, that wouldn't work. I just crash into the car in front of me, and that would be the end of the adventure.
Exactly.
It's a sad situation.
It would crumple like a Kleenex.
It would crumple like an old potato chip. It's a sad situation. And I remember at the time being in the theater, and this was a tense moment.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Where you hear like the noise in the distance and see the shadows of the critters running, and the rats are running to get away from the infected. That was a good moment. Now,
it is a good moment logically.
Yes.
There's all kinds of flaws there.
There's some questions. Questions.
It was a fascinating scene, and it was super creepy. And really, it's the end time. Maybe give a couple of those a whack, because you might want to eat those later.
Are you talking about you want to eat the infected?
No, the rats.
Oh!
That's I'm not turning, bro.
It's only been a month. I ain't turning right to cannibalism. I'm going to wait a little bit longer. Yeah, throw a couple rats in the back.
Do you think it's like trichinosis? If you cook the infected all the way through, it's okay to eat?
The other white meat? Is that what you're saying?
The long pork. The rage pork.
Wah, wah, wah. So then they go on like a road trip. Basically, like they don't see one zombie on the road.
What's wrong with the rat situation?
What's wrong with the rat situation?
First of all, one thing you could say is, why aren't the rats infected? Because if the monkeys and the other creatures can get infected, why not the rats? On top of that, what are the rats running from?
They're scared.
They're scared of what? Rats are not just hanging out in a hallway all together. There's 3 over in this wall. There's some over. They're in the walls.
Yeah.
So how is it they're now a giant herd running from Manchester? Were they listening to the Prodigy and now they've got the fear, the rage? I don't know. Why would there ever be a herd of rats? I could walk around and have a fire maybe, but I don't even think that would do it.
A fire baby?
Not a fire baby. I said I could maybe if there was a fire.
Baby.
Oh, God. When would there ever be a herd of rats?
I'm not an expert in the behavior of rats. I guess
I'm a ratologist based on I once had a pet rat.
You did.
And I did see Ben and
Willard. And the remake with Crispin Glover.
You know, I do like Crispin Glover.
Oh, he's a national treasure.
That makes me an expert. And I have lived in a house that had rat in the walls. And never once did, like, them all congregate like a herd of sheep.
Who's to say? It looked good cinematography. It looked
good. I was like, oh. And then I was like, that ain't ever going to happen.
Now, to answer your first question, is it possible that this virus is only affecting primates? So it wouldn't affect rats. Is that possible?
Possibly. Isn't that how every other horror movie is a cross-species thing? Because, of course, these rats have eaten some of the dead. And like the crow later on pecking at the dead dude. Why isn't like the birds? Oh my God, do you think the movie The Birds with Alfred Hitchcock was also the rage virus?
Yes, it's all the same universe.
It's all the same.
It's the extended Rage Monster universe. No question.
So you're saying that the rest of these critters are immune to the rage virus that only affects primates and humans?
I'm just, postulating, is that a possibility?
Don't they say that we and pigs share a certain amount of DNA? That's why we can use like pig hearts and pig skin for transplants and stuff like that.
I don't know if it's a question of sharing DNA. I just think maybe just by chance certain things are similar. I don't know.
They say Ebola comes from the monkeys.
That is true. Well, we're going to talk about this, but they actually based the physical aspects of the rage virus on like hemorrhagic fevers.
I did see Ebola. All the red eyes. Yep. Hemorrhagic meaning like to hemorrhage. Some people bleed out their pores, their eyes, any.
They throw up blood all the time. That's part of it.
That's right. One drop in your eye, bro.
That's how it starts. Let me tell you.
I can't even imagine.
Go for it.
Remember, before all of this, we had a case of Ebola in the United States. I can't wait to see how people are going to be like, again, I'm not wearing my mask. It's a government conspiracy. Ebola is no different than the flu.
First of all, not pronounced Ebola, but okay.
That's what my students always say. Miss, are we getting the Ebola?
Say yes. Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
So,
and your comment gives me the rage virus.
That's what happens. People don't want to talk about that, but it's true. So anyway, they go on the road trip and do not see a single rage person the entire trip, basically. I mean, they're stopping. That's not true. They stop off at a gas to fill up their tank. And homie goes and he's like, I'm just going to check out the diner over here. Why? We have enough food. Why not? I don't know. I feel like that's not a good enough answer. Yeah. Not a good enough answer. And of course, he's attacked by a crazy infected child he promptly kills.
Oh, that was a messed up scene, too. That kid looked freak.
That's why you do not go into these enclosed places just for the fun of it. No. No can do. And then they finally make their way up there and they meet the soldiers who are still up there, but not before poor Brendan Gleeson gets a drop in the eyeball. That's all it takes.
Yeah, did you think it was weird they went to the grocery store and it had electricity?
Had electricity and nothing had been touched.
And nothing had been touched. There's no way.
Yeah.
They were stockpiling toilet paper during Rona, and this is literally a store that time forgot.
It was literally the store that the insane people forgot, because it's literally like, it was almost like a musical montage of like Supermarket Sweep, where they're running down the aisles, laughing and singing and like grabbing things. Ooh, I'm going to grab some more of these crazy cookies over here. It's like, okay.
And see that this is the hidden subliminal message about liberals are bad. So if liberals cause this, then all the organic fruit, of course, is rotten. And then he grabs the case of irradiated fruit. He's like, radiated. Yeah.
He looked right down the barrel of the camera and gave it a big thumbs up. Very upsetting.
This is all very deep. This is deep state shit, man.
I don't appreciate this movie's agenda. Let me just say it like that. And then there's a 20-minute scene where he's trying to choose the correct whiskey. It's like, oh, no. You want this with the good peat, the original peat flavor. I don't know why it's Irish.
There would literally be no room in that car for the amount of shit that they grabbed.
No question. It wasn't some gigantic SUV. It was like
it should have been like beans and rice and dried this and canned that, not a case of apples and 5 bottles of whiskey.
That's all you need. That is all you need. So we meet Christopher Eccleston, who is Colonel West or whatever his name is.
So they make it to the
Utopia,
the Utopia, and nobody's there.
Right.
Or so
they think. They wait until Brendan Gleeson becomes a zombie and then they appear.
Yeah.
After gutted him down.
Oh, poor Brendan Gleeson.
Very
He's having a hard time. And he hears a crow and he decides to yell at the crow. And crows remember, and they remember bad people. So the crow literally spit in his eye some old rage rot and snap.
So wait a minute. This is a plan by the crow.
I'm going to say yes.
The crow was like, I remember that guy. I'm a sharpshooter too. I'm going to squirt just enough of the rage juice right in his eyeball from 30 feet.
No, that'll teach you to look up.
That'll teach you.
Hold your tone, sir.
Now, when we meet the soldiers, the last remaining soldiers, did you immediately go, oh, these are bad guys?
I did not until the first kind of graphic where he was kind of being an asshole. As soon as I saw that, I was like, y'all got to get out of here. This is not a safe place.
Well, it was interesting because Christopher Eccleston kind of always comes across as very reasonable. Very reasonable. He's like, oh, hey,
he has an amazing voice, so it's authoritative.
Yep.
And yet reassuring.
No question. So it's like you definitely see there's question marks among the troops. But he seems very kind of mild-mannered. Now, and then there's like the sergeant who's there, who is kind of uneasy about things.
Right.
We kind of meet him as well. And the fact that the soldiers were having such a good time shooting all the crazy infected that were approaching from the forest around the fortress.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Honestly, my first thought was, and you see these in some of these like war movies, where you have the commander who's trying to still keep control.
Right.
And those are the guys that always get shot by their troops. So originally I'm like, oh no, he ain't gonna last because these guys are hanging out, don't give a F.
Right. Well, and that's where the grand reveal comes, where it's basically like, my soldiers had lost all hope. So we set up the message, come to us, we're safe up here, to try to lure ladies up there. Because you can't...
I promised them women. We can't have a new society without women. So we decided to have a rape camp.
He didn't put it in those terms. And on some level, he seemed almost apologetic. But he's just like, yeah, I had to tell them they could keep the women. Sorry, Skillet. You could stay. We like you. You're a nice enough guy. You could stay, but we will be taking your women.
Yeah.
Sorry. No? Okay. Take them out and shoot them. Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, 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 wah.
Very upsetting. I'm out of notes. So what you got?
Maybe let the guy kill himself. I mean, if that's basically you have to sell your soul to whatever, you're going to continue society, let him go because he was a rapist. So let him
go. They all were, evidently. It's a sad situation.
Oh my God. It was totally like, who were those two hillbilly dudes from Walking Dead?
Dale and crap.
Yeah.
The dude, the main guy.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. People are screaming at their radios right now.
You fools! You fools!
Oh, we'll come back. The two hillbilly, the nice. I mean, even Dale becomes a nice racist by the end. So.
Well, and the problem with this, and like the Walking Dead, is the dead don't think.
Right.
They're just crazy and reacting. So if you can avoid them, you're okay.
Right.
They're not even really looking for you.
No.
They're attracted by sound and all of this, and like The Walking Dead, it's the people you need to look out for.
Well, because I mean, and I've talked about this before. In zombie movies, traditionally, the zombies are more like a natural disaster.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're a flood. They're a volcano. They're not something you can reason with or bargain with, and they aren't after you personally. If they get to you, that they're thrilled, but they're not like scheming or strategizing. There's no, like, to compare it to like vampire movies. Vampire movies, there's always like a head vampire.
Right.
There's always a main bad guy who's out to get you, right? They don't have that typically in zombie movies, just by nature of the beast.
By the nature of zombies, but what you do have are evil people who are, in fact, planning, and they're much more threatening.
Right. That's kind of what The Walking Dead is. It's not, if you watch The Walking Dead, it's not the zombies you have to worry about.
It wasn't the zombies that caused me to stop watching it.
It was the acting?
No, it was when we meet Negan, and I'm like, I just can't do that.
Well, the issue with all this stuff, where the reason why it gets so repetitive,
they have to keep escalating it.
They do, but it's just very repetitive. It's just kind of like, oh, here's another group of evil humans.
Right.
You know, every season and a half.
Here's a herd of zombies. After a while, you know.
Right.
What are you going to do? They're going to find a farm that I mean, they did find a farm. But this time they're going to find a farm that is all set up and everything works great. The end? You know what I mean? What else are you going to have them do? You either have them stay put and eventually disaster will come, or they're on the move and eventually disaster will come.
We're getting on this little jag, but I don't mind doing it. Robert Kirkman basically said he started making the comic The Walking Dead on the premise of, like, what happens after the movie is over.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then you realize
28 days later, what happened
happens?
The movie is over?
What happens after?
What happens after I rip off the movie and make a series and a buttload of money?
That's what he says. So, but that's the thing. It's like eventually you go like, well, there's a reason why the movies end. You know what I mean? Because then it just becomes kind of monotonous and you're doing the same thing over and over again. So,
and there's a part 2 to this. Was it 28 months later?
There's 28. We're going to talk about this. 28 weeks later, came out literally 4 years later. And 28 months later is like in pre-production.
Same people?
I don't think so. Because 28 weeks later did not have the same people either. It's kind of like, it's literally like, this is after the first month, right? Obviously.
Right.
This, and then the next one's after a couple years, what's going on.
Well, that's when I want to see them. So now I've lost interest. I'm not going to watch it. I refuse.
It's a sad situation. It's a sad situation. What other notes do you got? Any other highlights you want to talk about?
Well, at first, I didn't even notice there was another black guy in the military unit. I'm like, really? You got to take the only one black person besides the heroine in the entire movie and make that person the infected one.
That ain't right.
No,
that ain't right.
And the Irish dude whose name I already forgot, our hero. He did the old eye pops, and remember in a previous movie we discussed that after I talked to my nurse friend that actually is not going to kill you.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
Yeah.
Where the crazy android stuck his gloved fingers in the guy's eyes and poked his eyeballs out, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. I mean, you can take a spoon and scoop out a fish eyes and throw it back in the water.
I'd rather you not, but...
but the fish is going to, I don't know, bump into things, but it ain't going to be dead.
That's true. Well, you could always bleed to death, right?
I mean, that's the only possibility.
Well, okay.
I mean, that's, as far as I know, that's not a major artery.
Okay, so granted, if a normal person sticks their thumbs in your eyes, not great, but you're saying not fatal. Now, if a robot does it, or if we're talking about the beyond, if a zombie reaches out and literally pops your eyeball out, is it okay? I mean, just throw eye pots.
As long as you didn't get any zombie gooby in there, then you're mixing with the blood.
Okay.
But like in American Psycho, he literally cuts the eyes out of like a hobo, and then you see the hobo like later on still with his dog hanging out begging.
In the book you're talking about.
Oh yeah, the book.
Lovely. Yeah, I'm never going to read that, by the way.
Yeah, you know, unless you want to really hit fast forward, there's some serious.
No thanks. No thanks.
Seriously messed up business in there.
What else you got?
And then there is literally a single drop of humor at the end, where at the very end, after the eye pops, Hannah runs in and is about ready to kill our hero because he's making out with, Selena.
Yes.
Because she thinks he's all covered in blood, so he must have the virus. And she's high as a kite because they thought they were going to be on, like, Rape Town. So Selena gave her a bunch of doggy downers.
Was she trying to kill her? Was she doing, like, kind of a,
she asked. She was like, are you trying to kill me? She was like, I'm just going to make it so you don't care.
Fair enough. Because in that scene, you're right. He physically, with his bare hands, murders that soldier. But if you're just watching, do you know he's not infected with the rage? Which is why Selena's about to get at him.
Right.
And then I guess with just a saucy look, he convinces her, hey, I'm not filled with the rage virus.
I may be filled with viruses, but it's not the rage virus.
These are just STDs.
Riddled.
I'm riddled with it. I'm riddled with it. Good times. So, and then they're just living out in the country, the three of them, the daughter and Selena and Jim. Is that his name? God, I'm horrible with their names. Jim. Yeah. So they're just living the life. And at one point, the sergeant postulates that, I don't know why I keep saying postulates, that it's really just their island that's infected. Like the rest of the world is just going on as normal. And later you see Jim looking up in the sky and you see like there's a jetliner just flying overhead. Did you notice that?
Well, we saw that earlier too. While they were in Rape Town, he looked up and saw a plane flying over. But they were saying they heard on the radio that there were cases in Canada and that they had heard there were cases in these places, and then it went silent. Because I don't know if you know this, but they still have like short wave.
They do.
You can still pick up overseas business.
Citizens band?
Citizens, big band, this here's a rubber duck, and I'll put the hammer down. So you would have picked up that stuff if you had that kind of a radio.
That's a question we'll never know the answer to, I'm sad to say.
So I don't think, how could that was not a commercial jet. That was the military. So the military is somewhere.
Oh, well, there you go. Maybe that's the case then.
I can't imagine. London is huge. People are on and off, on and off. I guess if you think about it, it couldn't work on a plane because you flip so fast that how would a plane ever take off? But like on a ferry, I mean, that's pretty much pilot in itself, isn't it? I mean, that you could see how that would spread.
Yeah. These are important questions we may never know the answers to.
But I disagree with the idea that the rage virus is only in the UK.
Well, I know in America they call it the UK virus. So that was a Donald Trump kind of joke. Thank you. Thank you.
Like, what?
I'm here all week. Yeah, good times. Anything else?
Nope, that's all my notes.
Well, then let's head on over to behind the scenes.
Oh, please.
For scenes on the motorway where they're driving, the production got permission to shoot Sunday mornings between 7 and 9 a.m.
Yeah,
and they just used 10 cameras and just captured the total of 1 minute of usable footage. 10 cameras, 2 hours. The film was shot almost entirely in sequence, like a play.
All right.
Only a few reshoots were shot out of sequence. So there you go. They cast athletes as the infected because of how important physicality is to them.
Oh, when they were running, you could tell these were. It's interesting how almost everybody with the rage virus was incredibly fit.
They were. They do Pilates when they're not murdering people.
Yeah, it's funny.
The hospital in the film is a real hospital, but it's only open during the week. On the weekends, it is hired out for movies.
I'm sorry, because you put the patients where?
In the crematorium, I guess, at that point.
Oh my God.
It's like, whatever.
It's a Medi-Spa hospital?
That was it. Originally, Ewan McGregor was going to play Jim, but then he and director Danny Boyle had a falling out. And then the role was offered.
I would have accepted that.
And then Ryan Gosling was offered, but he had a scheduling conflict.
No,
can't do.
I want to hear Ryan Gosling's British accent. Or would it suddenly be in New York or something?
It would be in Canada, I think, at that point. It would be in Toronto. What else? This is one of the first mainstream films to be shot entirely digitally, as opposed to using film.
All right.
So, which it makes it. They talk about how this is the only way they could have done this. Filmed this movie in those scenes in London where they had to we have to set this up as fast as we can so that they can reopen these roads. If they're using traditional filming cameras, it could take an hour to set up some of these shots. With the digital cameras, they can just knock them out, bang, bang, bang.
And then fix it all post-production.
For the London scenes, police would close the roads at 4 a.m. and filming would begin immediately. After 1 hour, the police would reopen the roads. And they predicted that asking drivers, who are usually clubbers heading home, to wait for an hour, find another route, might make them angry. So they hired attractive young women to make the necessary requests.
Oh, my God.
And the drivers responded quite amicably to them. Shockingly. At the beginning of the movie, there is footage of kind of atrocities that are occurring around the world. Those were all staged.
Oh, really?
All staged.
God, that might be the most insane directing I've ever seen. I was sure these were real events. It looked really real.
Right. They felt.
I'm not being sarcastic.
No.
I was like, what horrible things are these?
Well, they felt it would be kind of in poor taste if, for kind of an entertainment vehicle, they were showing scenes of real atrocities.
I understand. And I agree with that, but I'm just not sure. I think most people would be lazy and do it the other way.
Just show it, right. Danny Boyle thought the notion of the living dead wanting to eat people's brains was outdated. And the original factors behind zombie movies was fear of nuclear power and things like that.
Right.
So they felt that in the modern age of 2002, they thought a virus apocalypse such as Ebola or things like that, especially in London, where there are all sorts of incidents with like anthrax and mad cow disease and foot and mouth disease. So you thought that was much more.
And fear of corporations, fear of government.
Absolutely. No question. The scene where the gas station blows up.
Oh my God, I do have notes for that. That was so amazing. It was so chilling to see these people just on fire, still chasing you.
Oh yeah, no question. That was a great scene.
That was a great scene.
It was kind of a bizarre scene because it only seemed like a couple creatures were after them. They're like, "F it, let's just blow up this, this gas station for no reason." Anyway, the police, they forgot to notify them.
Oh Lord!
So when the explosives were detonated, the police sent fire brigades. And thought it was like a terrorist attack.
Isn't there like some kind of license or permits that would have had to have been pulled? Or I didn't realize London was so free and easy.
Well, no, and there were already fire brigades present. It was just there were some people that evidently didn't get the memo.
I gotcha.
Wah, wah, wah. So like I said, the physical effects of the rage virus are based upon Ebola, which is communicable in all primates, including humans, and is transmitted through the blood. It's a hemorrhagic fever.
The blood is tainted.
The blood is tainted.
For those not in the know, that's a quote from one of my other brother's famous homemade movies.
Bloodhouse.
Bloodhouse. You can find it on YouTube.
Check it out. Check it out. If you get Ebola, it leads to a rash, red eyes, and both internal and external bleeding.
Oof.
There you go.
Don't do it.
Do not do it. The extras who played the dead bodies in the church were college students who volunteered to appear in the agreed to appear in the film. So
you know what?
Volunteered.
I would have totally volunteered for that. And on top of that, I'm finding notes that I wrote. The thing about going to a church.
Yes.
That sanctuary, that should be a safe place. So immediately, I mean, he goes there like right after like leaving the hospital.
Yes.
So it already sets the stage that there is no safe place.
I just don't think that's where I would go.
And then, of course, the first person who gets crazy with him is like a priest or a minister or whatever these British people worship.
Whatever these British heathens worship, exactly. Cillian Murphy's nude scenes, plural, were done in a closed set at Murphy's insistence.
Oh, well.
So there you go. He didn't say "come one, come all." The line forms on the right. Wah, wah. I think that's about it. Shall we talk about the cast and crew?
Do it.
We talked about that it was directed by Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
You know him. I'll take exactly. The phone is ringing in the background. If you
I was like, is there disco music? Is it like the Partridge Family where Lori was picking up radio stations with her braces?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. He is known for 127 Hours, Slumdog Millionaire.
I did see that.
Shallow Grave.
Well, that's interesting. So he worked with Chris, whatever his name is, in Shallow Grave too.
He definitely worked with Chris, whatever his name is. He also directed.
I love Shallow Grave, and then the one that came after that, which was
Lay it on me.
What's the one where they're like in Iowa and they're inviting like guests over, and if they can't convince them to change their evil ways, they poison them. The Last Supper.
Did he direct that?
I don't know, but I think they're related. Shallow Grave and Last Supper.
I think you're mistaken.
I'm looking it up.
He also directed Train Spotting.
Oh,
that was the first big one that he did.
That was very upsetting. I saw that. I still had postpartum depression.
No question.
There's a dead baby.
He's a big time movie director. He's a real person. You know what I'm saying?
A real person.
Not, like I said, not Rando Joe behind the wheel. Cillian Murphy played Jim. You know him from this movie, of course. Inception. He was in a movie called Sunshine. He was in The Dark Knight. Peaky Blinders, more recently. You know,
that's on the Netflix.
It's on the Netflix. It was
good.
All sorts of good stuff. I'm not going to go through any more Cillian Murphy stuff. What else? Naomi Harris plays Selena. Like I said, she is currently in the James Bond movies as Moneypenny. You would also know her. She was in Moonlight. We saw her in that recently. Let's see. Collateral Beauty.
He did not direct Last Supper.
I didn't think he did.
I don't know why I got those two wiggled together. It's actually a female director.
I didn't want to hurt your feelings.
Stacy Tidal, but if you want to see a good movie, see Last Supper. At the end, they invite like a Rush Limbaugh character over. It's an all-star cast.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. All sorts of. She was in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. She's all over the place.
All right.
Let's see. Anybody else I want to talk about? Christopher Eccleston played Major Henry West.
He's been in everything. The Ninth Doctor Who, as we said, Shallow Grave. And if you have not seen Shallow Grave, you have to see Shallow Grave.
Yes, he was Doctor Who. He was in Thor: Dark World. He was in
The Others.
The Leftovers.
The Others.
No, I'm telling you, he was in The Leftovers.
Oh, but he was in The Others. He played Nicole Kidman's husband.
He was in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Did I see that?
With Nicolas Cage. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. Let's see. And we've got Brendan Gleeson, played Frank. And you know him for 10 million things. He was in Braveheart. He was in The Guard, Cavalry in Bruges, Cold Mountain. I don't know.
Oh, I saw in Bruges. That was a fabulous movie.
Yep. Too. He plays Donald Trump in The Comey Rule, if you want to check that out. He was in Paddington 2 as Knuckles McGinty.
Knuckles McGinty.
Yeah. I mean, he was in Troy, that movie about
I didn't see
the Trojan War. Like how dare you? I think that's about all we need. Let's talk about...
I'm still looking up Chris Echelon.
Okay.
Oh, he was in Cracker. Oh, my God. I love Cracker.
Chris Eccleston, not Echelon. Sweet Jesus. The rating for 28 Days Later is currently 87% certified fresh.
He was in 24-Hour Party People. I like that, too.
There you go. That's all you need to know. What is your rating for...
Oh, no. This is solid as a rock. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. Kieran, whatever his name's, Full Frontal.
Okay. There's no one in the movie called Kieran anything. There's Cillian Murphy.
Killian Red. Wasn't that a beer like in the 80s?
Kieran Culkin. I don't know. One of them.
It would have been a very different movie with Kieran Culkin.
That's it. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 hemorrhagic vomit in your face scenes. I thought it was great, but I have to tell you, I did not find it nearly as scary as I had the first time I saw it.
See, I'd only ever seen it once before, so I basically forgot everything about it till what's his name? Chris Escalon.
You're doing it to piss me off now. Eccleston.
Eccleston. I don't know why I can't remember that, because I literally just tried to Google him and I had to give up on his last name and just typed in Shallow Grave. I had to reverse engineer it.
This is very upsetting. No, it is a well done movie, no question. Yeah. Acting, everything about it. I wish it was scarier. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, it got my heart beating, but now you're jaded, brother. This is the shit you put on to fall asleep to. This is what you listen to when you're getting a massage. So you're jaded now.
That's what it is.
I've literally gotten to the point with this podcast that I need to watch this at 8:00 with my coffee. So I have the rest of the day to try to forget the trauma that I've inflicted on myself.
Oh, for real? So you have post-traumatic stress syndrome now because of this podcast.
In between my upcoming trip and watching movies about Charles Manson as I'm falling asleep,
do that.
I haven't been getting a lot of sleep.
See, I can't watch real crime stuff. Real crimes, like I was reading about the what was it, the soccer team who went hiking into the cave, and the cave got flooded, and they were trapped in there. This is a couple of years ago in Thailand. It was like
what's happening with soccer teams? Why there was Alive when they're crashing in the Andes? Oh, these are the kids,
right? The kids, and they were in there for like.
That had a happy ending.
It did. A couple of the rescuers died over it, but all the kids were rescued and it was fine.
Oh,
but
they blame that coach, man.
Well, and they talked to, I don't know why we're talking about this, but they talked to like a cave diver, a British cave diver who lives, I think it's in Thailand. And he said the rains came early this year. So literally the assistant coach who kept them like in good spirits in the cave when they thought they were screwed, actually did nothing wrong. He did the good thing. Like literally, imagine you're stuck in that cave,
right?
Going like, I don't think we told anybody we were coming here, and there's no way out. They were 2.5, like almost 3 miles into this cave.
First of all, you're responsible for a bunch of these kids. Someone should always know where you are.
Hell yes. Anyway, it gave me the shivers just reading about it, and it was a happy ending for the most part.
I know. Having kids messes you up. Before I had kids, kids all die in a mining disaster. Okay, well, what else do you want to do? Don't you have kids that it was like,
It's true. Kids all died in a mining disaster. Well, I'm not in the mood for a comedy right now. Anyway, good times. Sweet Jesus. So there you have it. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcast, TWDie. We are on Instagram.
We are.
So check that out. That is the _podcast_ that _wouldn't_die. Sweet Jesus.
At least it makes sense, unlike our Twitter, where it was like TPodcast, TDie,
There's no umlauts as far as I know.
There needs to be more effing umlauts in the world today.
I mean, Motley Crue is keeping them around for years just by themselves.
It's very simple. It's The Podcast That Wouldn't Die with an underscore but after each word.
So there you go.
We just got 4 likes, I'll have you know. But I think these are 4 likes from someone who are sending me unsolicited badge pics. So I'm uncertain about our Instagram account right now.
I prefer my pics to be solicited. In all honesty.
For God's sakes, people, can you please go and give us a 5-star rating on Apple? I would appreciate it.
Yes, but only if it's a 5-star. Only if it's a 5-star. We don't need no 1-star reviews. Tell us how lousy we are. We only
tell us that they were geniuses.
Yes.
That
Give me a foot rub. That's what I'm looking for. Okay. For goodness sake.
Well, I think that was one of the offers that came through on the Instagram.
It could be. It could be. Email us at thepodcastthatwouldn'tdie@gmail.com. We are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and everywhere the finer podcasts are available. So check it out.
Wherever you're streaming, people, we are there.
We are there. So go ahead and like, share, subscribe, spread the word, won't you, for God's sakes. And Aaron...
Tell them Aaron sent you.
They may be, who the hell is Aaron? But do it nonetheless. And Aaron, you also have a personal Instagram account that you
have 2.
Lay it on.
I am the Cult of Aaron. The Cult of Aaron, of course, I like to have the underscores after each word. And Don't Feed the Pigeon on the Instagram. I am on the Twitsky.
Yep.
What am I nowadays? Oh, the Cult of Aaron.
So there you go. So thank you very much and be well.
Hang in there, people. Remember, if the scientist says the monkey is disease, he could be lying, but don't roll the dice.
And wear a mask when you free the monkeys from the cage. That's all I'm saying.